Welcome, guys, to the MMOs.com podcast. New year, new podcast. We got a little bit of that intro song played twice, but Altai here. I'm joined again by...
Omer.
All right. Thanks for joining us this early in the year. Omar, any good stories from New Year's?
Not too much, unfortunately. I think our New Year's was very boring this year, as it usually is. You know, we played video games. I was playing freestyle too during the fireworks of New Year's, and I think you got McDonald's. So very basic day for us.
True. Yeah, nothing too exciting here. But you know what we did have? We had an
What did we
exciting
have?
year in gaming in 2017.
I don't know about that. Look, you know what? I'm gonna say we had an exciting year in gaming,
Yeah.
but a very unexciting year in MMORPGs.
That's true. That's true.
I think that can really sum up the entire 2017. A very boring year for MMORPGs. In fact, probably one of the worst years in recent memory. And you'll see why when we get to our weekly raid. So take it away, Altai.
Okay, well, before weekly raid, I want to look back at 2017. You know, last week we looked forward at the games we were looking forward to in 2018. So it makes sense to look back this week. And I did say it's been a great year in games. And we'll start at the top. We saw Nintendo Switch come out. Did really well, much better than I thought it would. We had 2 games come out for Switch that are among the best rated games in gaming history. Breath of the Wild, Zelda, and Mario Odyssey. I played Odyssey a bit. I haven't played Breath of the Wild at all. Great start, you know, for Switch. They're really happy where they are. And another big trend is, you know, you said it was a bad year for MMORPGs. I'll put a caveat there. It was a bad year for new MMORPGs.
Yes, that's a good caveat.
A lot of existing games did really well. They grew to new heights. Warframe got a huge expansion. Path of Exile got a huge expansion. Both free-to-play games, free expansions. Huge amount of content in these games. These games added more content than most new games have to begin with.
I mean, Warcraft 2 too. I mean, with Final Fantasy 14 Stormblood, Yoshi P has said the game has more subscribers now than ever before. So we do have existing MMORPGs reaching new heights that, you know, all-time highs for them. So it's been a bad year for new MMORPGs.
Yeah, exactly.
Existing MMORPGs have had tons of new content added. Black Desert is still growing. They're still adding new content as well. The game is still doing really well on Steam. Path of Fire expansion for Guild Wars 2 launched. So a lot happened in MMORPGs, but not too much happened on the new MMORPG front is what I meant.
Yeah, that's fair. Of course, there was a big trend in PUBG. And I guess before we get too far into that, let's just go to our Game of the Year page here. So we gave Game of the Year to PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I remember just weeks ago, people were saying, well, it doesn't even deserve to be in the running because it's early access. But they got you guys. They left early access. They're in 1.0 before the end of the year. Okay, so they got there. So you can't say it's early access anymore. That excuse is out the window.
A lot of people are going to be kind of triggered by, you know, even this being on a list on MMOs.com. You know, we said we did give it the Game of the Year for numerous reasons. But what's actually pretty interesting, I actually didn't realize it till now. If you go on Steam and you go to games massively multiplayer, can you guess what the most popular massively multiplayer game is on Steam?
PUBG?
Yeah, PUBG. It's massive. It's the developers behind the game have selected a handful of genres when they put it on there, and they put action, adventure, and massively multiplayer as their list for tags, for actual genres on their page. So I know a lot of people are going to be upset. You know, we don't want to really discuss the merits of whether it's MMO or not. I mean, you know, I think it's Game of the Year material. Period. Right? Forget MMOs.com. I think it very much deserves the title Game of the Year, simply because of how much impact it's had on online gaming. I mean, gaming in general. We both know people who play PUBG regularly who don't normally play other video games. PUBG brought more people to PC gaming than I think basically any other PC game in the last 10 years, maybe except League of Legends. It's really expanded the genre a lot. And I know a lot of casual players that play PUBG who otherwise wouldn't even be playing video games. It's just a game that has such broad appeal, and a game that I've already sunk well over 200 hours into. And I've been having a blast with it. And it's given me a chance to reconnect with old friends who I don't even game with anymore. So PUBG has had a great impact on my life, at least so far.
Beyond just bringing new people in it and such, a Eurogamer actually had a beautiful article, and I think this is one of the best written gaming articles I've seen all year. And it kind of helped me realize what a difference between an MMO really is. You know, people argue about how many players, does it have a persistent this, that, whether it's an MMORPG. MMORPG is different, but MMO here. For me, a big part of it is this. He talks about, he quotes a famous quote that says, golf is a good walk spoiled. And then he uses this metaphor to talk about how games work. games are a mix of walking and golf. So golf is like the mechanics, like the boss fight, there's the skill system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the walk is just kind of experiencing the game. And PUBG is a lot more walk and a lot less golf than a lot of other games that came out this year. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's accessible. It can be played any way you want. There are people who always jump into the exciting zones, fight to the death. There are people who hide and play their own style. So there's no right way to play it. It's very open-ended. It's player-driven. And to me, that's a good walk. And this is a great article. I really recommend it. I did link it in chat. If you have a moment to read this, top notch.
Yeah, I mean, the emerging gameplay of games like PUBG, I think, is what makes it amazing. I mean, it's a game you keep playing, right? You think you get bored of it, but really, when you play with new friends, you always play different styles. You always land in different spots. You find different loot, and you find different encounters with people. There's, it really has a lot of replay value because of that. And I think it's phenomenal for that reason.
Yeah, I have no reservations, guys. I'm giving this player, PUBG Game of the Year. This was what on the gameplay perspective, industry impact perspective, however you want to put down the cards. I think it's Game of the Year.
And Alex made a good point too. Brace yourselves for 2018 being the year of Battle Royale games. And I think you are spot on. I think we're going to get a lot of clones. Battle Royale might become the next MOBA, where literally every company and their mom just literally throws, oh, Mr. Fester, appreciate.
Yeah, thank you so much, dude.
You are now the top bit master, Mr. Fester. Mucho appreciated.
All right, well, with that said, like I said, we said a lot of good things about PUBG, new trends, new players, and we said good things about existing games. But now let's move on to our MMORPG of the year. And unlike a lot of sites, which I don't begrudge them for this, but they do they consider existing games as well. So what is the best MMORPG you can play in 2017? We wanted to do a little different. We said it had to be a game that came out in 2017. So our MMORPG of the year had to actually come out into open beta in 2017. And with those criteria, we had to give it to New Legend. A lot of people were surprised by this. There was a few comments who weren't happy about it. But, and they said it might even look like we got paid to do this. We did not. If you're watching this, anyone at Moo Legend, feel free to pay us after the fact. But the competition was scarce. There was Albion Online, which started with a bang. I think you'd agree, Omar, right? We had a lot of fun when we first started playing it, but the player drop was quick, and it just didn't hold our attention too long.
I do want to emphasize again, we gave Moo Legend Game of the Year with some reluctance. I mean, it wasn't a terrible game, but it really wasn't, hugely impactful either. But the problem was there really weren't that many other games they're running. You mentioned Albion Online. Another potential game was maybe Revelation Online, right?
Thank you for the sub. Go ahead. Oh, we got a sub.
Oh, Josh, appreciate the subscription for Twitch Prime, man. Mucho appreciated. And yeah, we had Moo Legend. We had Revelation Online, Albion Online, and a handful of other games. And really, that's the reason Moo Legend won. We thought it was the best pick of the options we had. A lot of people very instinctively kind of shat on this list because Moo Legend was on the list. But we do have criteria of a game that it had to launch this year. So with that in mind, we're open to other. I mean, I'm curious what other people thought. Do you guys think there was any other better MMORPG launches this year? I mean, Closers also launched open this year, but that's kind of an older game as well. It came out in South Korea well before then. But Moo Legend came out in South Korea in 2017 and in America in 2017. But even Closers, I mean, it's not a bad game, but it really wasn't innovative at all. And one thing about Moo Legend, which I kind of liked, was that there really aren't that many other games like it. We're talking isometric action MMORPG style, games like Path of Exile, Diablo 3, but with an actual, with more actual MMORPG elements. So it had that feel, but it was still an MMORPG, which is what kind of Moo Online did as well. The original Moo Online is still really popular today, and Moo Legend still just kind of took that model and just brought it to 2017. But arguably, Moo Online is probably going to be more popular, going forward because that game is huge. But Moo Legend was at least a bit different. And Revelation Online, it started with a bit of a bang, but honestly, there's just so much wrong with Revelation Online. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms, but like the game plays itself.
Revelation Online was the key contender because actually in 2016 we gave it our award for most anticipated game. So it had a lot of hype behind it. Revelation. I know a lot of people got into it. I honestly gave it I tried to figure that game out. I played it a decent amount. It was so disjointed to me. I know there's a few people in chat who got a lot further, but it's just one of those games that kind of fell out real quick. Quickly about Albion, I feel like one of the problems with that game was when you make a game, right, and they tried to make it a PvP MMO, right? I feel like you can't do that. Like the PvP has to kind of take off on its own. It's kind of like saying we're making a game to be an esport.
I hate that. It
doesn't work that way. You can't just you got to make a good game. Have good mechanics for combat, and then you got to just let the players go with the PvP. When you build it from the ground up with PvP, it just doesn't. There's nothing to do. The PvP has meaning because of all the other things in an MMO, right? So if it's just PvP, you're competing with like actual competitive games, like Battle Right or something. And in which case you can never match them in combat. I don't know. It just feels weird to just go for PvP.
Yeah, I feel like it would be nice if there's more to it. I think what made Ultima Online particularly great was the PvP kind of emerged in the game. It was never really designed as a PvP MMORPG. And I think it was for RuneScape, Tibia, a lot of these old school games which, had the whole hardcore PvP scene. They weren't made to be PvP MMORPGs. They were just made to be MMORPGs. And the PvP kind of developed naturally. I think when you start designing for becoming a hardcore game, it gets designed very weirdly and it just doesn't feel organic.
It's a good question. Does that mean you don't think Camelot Unchained will be a success? That's definitely in the back of my mind. Yes, Omar and I played Dark Age of Camelot for years. It's one of our favorite games. Camelot Unchained is by the same guy who made that. But Dark Age of Camelot was a full-blown MMORPG. It had dungeons. It had different classes: healer, buffer, tank, whatever. And it had this great Realm and open PvP stuff. So and I don't think it would mean as much. The PvP wouldn't mean as much if there wasn't this context, right? Of this, you kind of level up by killing the frogs. You go to the dungeon, you kill undead, you work together, you make friends, you make a guild, then you fight together against other team, other realm. So without all that, if it's just log in and fight each other, it kind of loses the context.
I mean, also for an MMORPG, I mean, look, we love MMORPGs, and for it to be and it's got to be more than just this core combat or this PvP. If I want to play PvP, I play League of Legends. I'll play Counter-Strike Go.
Or PUBG.
If I want purely, or PUBG. If I want pure gameplay mechanics, you play those. And we've talked about this a lot, but an MMORPG has to be more than just the core combat. I mean, don't get me wrong. Combat like in Terra, in Blade and Soul, in Black Desert Online are great. But they're great because they exist in an MMORPG realm. Because I wouldn't play Blade and Soul or Terra purely just for the combat alone. There are so many better games you can play if you just want the combat. I mean, a game like CSGO doesn't have the context of an MMORPG. A game like League of Legends is like these 30-minute self-contained matches. The reason people play MMORPGs, and I think one of the reasons they get addicted to MMORPGs. I mean, I mean, my personal experience actually has been I get more addicted to MMORPGs than I get to games like CSGO, League of Legends, or PUBG. I can only play PUBG for a couple hours at a time. I can only play League of Legends probably like 3 or 4 matches a day maximum. Even like during my peak when I was Masters, I'd only play like 3 ranked games a day at most. Sometimes less than that. But when I play MMORPGs, most recently I played Final Fantasy 14. I would play that literally from the moment I got up until I went to sleep. Few other games can actually do that, and it's not for that tab targeting gameplay. The gameplay isn't even that great. It's really everything else in Final Fantasy 14 in the MMORPG genre that becomes this whole virtual world, the chat room, the crafting, the people you meet, the achievements you do in game. There's so much more going on than just swinging your sword.
Yep, and
I hate for MMORPGs to become swinging your sword.
I'm glad you mentioned Final Fantasy there, because we gave that the best expansion of the year award. So Stormblood, it beat out Guild Wars, it beat out Warframe and Path of Exile and all that. So what did this add? So just talk about the new stuff in this, and were you happy with the story? I know story is a huge part of this game.
All right. It's actually, I from everyone I've spoken to so far, I actually have a pretty drastically different opinion. First of all, I didn't really like the Realm Reborn story. The first base game story, it picked up a bit towards the end. I loved Heaven's Word story, which is the first expansion pack. I thought it was beautifully done. The characters made sense. The motivations made sense. It was just really great storytelling. And then the Stormblood storyline, it started off kind of fascinating, but then it became very like the bad guys were just bad guys. They were like Looney Tunes tier bad guys. Like they were just very cliche scene of this messenger talking to Lord Xenos, who's basically the governor general of the town, the guy, the viceroy. He's in charge of the occupied lands, and the messenger gives him bad news, and he just cuts the messenger's head off, right? Just to be a douchebag. And there were just so many scenes of just hilariously Looney Tunes tier evilness in Stormblood. I didn't like that kind of storytelling, but beyond that, I mean, it added new dungeons, it added and 2 new classes, increased the level cap. It added a lot to the game, because when a game like Final Fantasy 14 increased the level cap and adds new classes, literally it expands the game so much, because you can play every character class on one character with the game's multi-job system. So it just gave so much more shit to do, which I thought was phenomenal. They've done so many quality of life changes since Stormblood, and they're adding so much more content still. I mean, 2.0, 4.2 is coming out later this month, to be adding 2 new raid dungeons, a new raid dungeon and normal dungeons as well. So it added a shit ton of stuff to the game, and there's a reason why the game is at its peak subscribers right now. The story I think was kind of fell flat, but other people really liked it, so that's just my opinion.
My favorite part of the game is on the technical side. They actually ditched PlayStation 3 support for Stormblood. So I think, well, I'm not just saying that to F the PS3 players, but it's very clear for a long time now that the PS3 support was holding back the potential of the game. So with that gone, right, when they don't have to focus on that old technology anymore, what the mechanics available to them, the engine upgrades available, the graphic updates available are going to expand. So it's a great new foundation for the game for many years to go. So you can finally ditch that legacy stuff. And, yeah, that's what I liked.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff on FFXIV. The game has added in the last year. They've added a free-to-play version to level 35, so anyone can kind of get a feel for the game, see if it's up their alley. But it is unfortunately falling into the trap that I think every MMORPG kind of does. And I hate to say this, but it doesn't get fun till late game. It's a very stupid system, but I feel like MMORPGs have been plagued with this problem for a long time, and FFXIV is no different. I mean, honestly, the storytelling in the early parts are especially pretty bad, I think. But it really only gets good once you commit the time to invest into it. But once you do, it becomes fun.
All right, well, that's good. Hopefully we'll see a lot more from FF14 this year. So let's move right along our little categories here. So we have most anticipated game. And as I said, last year this was Revelation Online. And this year I gave it to World of Warcraft, the classic server, the official classic server. Now, this one might cause some controversy out there. It's not technically a new game, but I really do think there's a lot of hype behind this.
It's going to be a little controversial because it's not really a new game. But, I mean, obviously, we're still excited for Lost Ark. We're still excited for me, somewhat excited for Air and Bless.
I had to make it this was actually a hard call, too, because a lot of the upcoming games, the most anticipated games, don't really have a firm 2017 launch date, including WoW Classic. A lot of people say it might get pushed back to 2019. Lost Ark, for example, there's no set date for that either. So my criteria that I had to think it had a chance of coming out in 2017. So that's why I picked this over Lost Ark.
I mean, World of Warcraft Classic doesn't exactly have a firm release date either.
I know.
It's probably going to come out in 2018 if I had to guess.
Yeah.
And actually, this is a game that I know a lot of my high school buddies are actually really excited for. People, again, I don't talk to too often, but I personally know a lot of people that are coming back to World of Warcraft Classic. And we said this in previous podcasts. I will bet. I have a friendly $1 wager with anyone if they want to take me up on this. But I'm confident that the World of Warcraft vanilla server will be the most popular realm in the game by far. So the most popular. Look at the most active server right now, and look at the vanilla realm. I think the vanilla realm will be more popular. There's gonna be more demand for this than any of the 1 or 2, 3, even the biggest regular servers combined. I could be horribly wrong, and it could be dying down within a few months. But I'm confident that the hype is real, and that even a year after launch, the vanilla server will be quite large.
Yeah, and let's talk about some other games that are coming out. For sure, I think Ascent, Infinite Realm, and
that's
Bless,
happening.
and
Definitely.
Bless, I think are both going to happen 2018 for sure. They're going to be head-to-head competitors, both Korean fantasy free-to-play MMORPGs, and both on the Unreal 3 engine, which is like a whole generation behind now. I know some people say it's not a big deal. I still think it's a big deal. Blessed now is how old? I think the original open beta in Korea was like 3 or 4 years ago. It's been released and shut down in Russia and stuff. So it's an old game competing with a lot of new stuff this year.
And hopefully, I mean, they just have to fix optimization in Bless. Again, I maintain that I had a lot of fun with Bless, but it was unplayable because it was just literally playing at such shit tier FPS. So if they get their act together, I think it's got a bit of a chance.
Really? All right. Well, we'll see. All right. Anything else to say about that, or should we move on?
I'm looking forward to a lot of. I'm looking forward to Parrot Chronicles. Again, that's kind of still the most nebulous title. We didn't mention it because again, there is no release date. There's really nothing happening with Parrot Chronicles, and I'm still excited for MapleStory 2, which hopefully will happen sometime in the West. Actually, I mean, very small side anecdote. I was actually reading the Q&A session with Nexon's investor relations. So basically, every quarter they give a Q&A with the bank analyst, and somebody mentioned MapleStory 2, and MapleStory 2 just basically launched in China in open beta, so it's out in China. And the CEO of Nexon basically said, with how much we've changed MapleStory 2, we're excited to be launching the game around the world. He didn't address China. He said we're excited to be looking to launching MapleStory 2 around the world. So that kind of tells you the CEO of Nexon is thinking that. Now they're just thinking about China. They're thinking about launching this game probably in Europe and America as well. So that's like the first actual bit of some MapleStory 2 discussion from Nexon we've heard that implies there might be a Western release eventually. You know, and he could have just said we're happy with the Chinese release. He didn't say that. He said, you know, with all the changes we've made, we're really looking for, you know, we're really excited to be launching this game around the world. So Maple Story 2, hopefully 2018. I think we're gonna get an announcement on Maple Story 2 this year for sure in English.
Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. I did consider that, and we did discuss it last week for our games we're looking forward to, but I just don't think it's going to make the 2018 deadline. Neither is Camelot Unchained. I'm even even Crowfall. I'm not even sure if that's going to
make. They said 2018. They said they definitely want to do this. They drew a line in the sand, whatever that means. You know, they said something's happening in 2018. Some playable version will launch.
Yeah, but remember, my criteria was open beta. So if they launch some kind of paid alpha and there's going to be a wipe, I'm not going to count that as a 2018 game. So with that said, I don't think a lot of the big Western crowdfunded games are going to be ready for prime time in 2018. All right, move along here. Okay, card game of the year. I gave it to Gwent. There was a few games in the running. There's the what's it called, the Elder Scrolls game, which I did try, but I thought Gwent was at least different enough from the generic Hearthstone clones we're getting to warrant.
Actually, it's the most different of the card games I've seen. The actual mechanics in Gwent are so different from Shadowverse, Hearthstone, Elder Scrolls. I mean, there's been so many card games trying to copy the success of Hearthstone, because we covered it a year ago. Hearthstone makes like several $100 million a year, and because of that, everyone's been jumping on that bandwagon. But Gwent actually gasped. They did something different. So if you like card games and you're not averse to learning a new style of game, I mean, give Gwent a try. I mean, if you're not, I mean, you probably already played Hearthstone, but if you want to try something different, Gwent, for that reason alone, is worth trying.
Yeah, like Amar said, it's very different. There's no health amounts. There's no minions or mana. It's basically, it kind of harkens back to like real life card games, like really old ones. So you gotta you take turns playing cards, and you have to end up with the most points on the board after several rounds of back and forth. It's actually the concept is easier, but there's a lot more room for like strategy and kind of outsmarting and bluffing and outsmart your opponents. So at least it's different. That's why I gave it to it.
Yeah, I think well deserved.
All right, cool.
Have the most innovative game of the year, because I think this is actually worth talking about.
Yeah, this is actually kind of a sad state where MMOs are in. So we gave most innovative game to Master X Master. And obviously, being innovative didn't save the game, right? It shut down, and CCL pulled the plug. This game tried to do a lot of things. It did some of them well, but at least it tried to be different. So what part of it did you like the most? I'll go after you.
All right, there's actually a lot to like about MXM's actual innovativeness. Okay, the fact that they didn't just make another MOBA clone. They didn't just clone League. They didn't just put an action spin on League that we've seen, with so many other MOBAs. They had a really cool tag team mechanic where it actually introduced quite a unique way to play the game. So all of a sudden, you have like 20 heroes in the game. Instead of just picking one hero, you play two heroes, and you can switch between them, and it really expands your combination or your combo lists. And each hero, you can actually have different loadouts where you can bring out like different abilities to the table as well. So each hero had multiple ways to play it, and you also had a tag team mechanic, which introduced a lot of unique mechanics to the game, and it was very twitchy combat too. So it was action oriented. Every ability had to be aimed, and there was a huge skill ceiling to the game. I mean, it made a lot of unbelievably dumb mistakes by having an identity problem. Like, they weren't sure if they wanted to make an MMO or they wanted to go with a MOBA route. And they had this really weird MMO element tagged on where the game had a very closers-like Soul Worker or Dragoness or Vindictus style gameplay where you have this hub world and you go on these, instance missions, these dungeons, and you just grind some PvE experience. It felt very bizarre to mix that with MOBA element. So I think even the actual PvE element, I've played closers, I've played DFO, I've played a lot of these, instance dungeon, persistent hub games, Critica as well, and at least the gameplay, even for the PvE element, felt really unique in Master X Master, and it actually felt really good. It actually worked, I thought. The boss mechanics were cool, the way you dodge attacks felt really interesting too, and essentially very similar to that Wildbuster game which just launched, but MXM did it better. But even then, they failed because they couldn't focus on one aspect. They should have either went full PvP, full MOBA-like game, or full MMORPG and instance dungeon persistent hub-like game like Critica or DFO. It just felt so weird. They went this weird route where nobody knows what kind of game it is even. And they had these really stupid mechanics where you had to grind to get all these legendary nodes, which made the PvP stupid unbalanced. Like, if you weren't willing to grind the PvE or pay money, you were playing at a disadvantage in PvP. Which made all the hardcore MOBA players, what the fuck is this? I don't want to play this. And all the people that wanted to play the PvE were like, this game is spending all this effort on making PvP, and the PvE was kind of lackluster because there wasn't that much content in the PvE that it basically appeased nobody. but it had the core mechanics of the game were actually really great. If you played MXM, you have to admit the core combat mechanics were well designed.
Yeah, and I think the biggest fault was they shouldn't have mixed the PvE progression with the PvP. Like PvP should have been like you go in without those stats stuff that you get from PvE. You know? So that was a big problem. Besides that, I also like the switching thing. And I like the fact that you could do the mobile mode or just the arena. Like just right? Like you just fight each other. Like
a Battle Right style 3v3 arena was a popular. I actually like the game mode a lot. There's also a traditional 5v5 League or Dota style game mode, but the 3v3 arena where there's basically no creeps and you just basically fight it out in an arena. Battle Right style was hella fun as well. The game was great. I mean, the core gameplay was really fun. It just I don't know, some really dumb mistakes and design decisions were made on a higher level, I guess, at NCSoft, which kind of doomed the game.
Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely the most innovative, but I guess it just didn't put those innovative components together as well as they could have, and NCSoft did pull the plug, and I think we're all surprised that this game came and went before WildStar.
Yeah, well, it's a survivor. We've talked about it. That one refused to die. I think it's gonna make all of 2018 and not shut down either. I'm confident in WildStar now. They survived.
All right, let's move on to my favorite category, best clone of the year.
And what is the best clone of the year?
I give it to Fortnite. Okay, because we all expect the Asians and the Chinese to copy everything, right? But the surprising thing here was Epic Games, which is the engine that makes the engine that powers PUBG, right? They were so blatant to copy so many aspects of PUBG almost directly, like the flying thing, you parachute off, right?
The advantage mechanics, little details. Too.
Even the island looks so similar, right? The geography of the island, like it was so funny, like, and a lot of the player unknown himself, he said, look, we don't mind people making Battlegrounds games, right? Because they don't own the concept or anything, but to make it so blatant, like it's so obvious they just copied PUBG, right? At least, like, why couldn't they make their map a desert map, like or like some other variant, you know, like a forest or something? Like why did they
make the bandage mechanics different? The fact that the bandage mechanics only worked to the exact same percentile in PUBG, like 70-80%, and the way they worked were identical. Like they just copied the exact design, and maybe they worried about changing it later. But it was so obvious that their starting point was to rip off PUBG, which I think is why it was so offensive to some people.
Yeah, and there were other contenders. There was that mobile game by Shanda, right? What was it called? We played it for Grandfest.
It was NetEase. It's
NetEase, my bad.
Rules of Survival.
Rules of Survival, and you can download that on your phone right now. It's out in America. You can download it for PC as well. It's basically PUBG as well. But again, that's a Chinese company, and we all expect the Chinese to copy stuff. You know, that's not news.
That's not surprising. Rip somebody off, it's not news.
So what was surprising with Fortnite was that it was a Western studio, and I made a joke in the article. Maybe it was that 40% Tencent ownership that kind of rubbed off.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so exactly. Some of you might not know this, but Epic Games is 40% owned by Tencent. And they got those shares from Mr. Cliffy B, who sold it to them when he left Unreal.
Poor Cliffy B jumped from that right to Lawbreakers, which is an utter disaster. Take that one first. There's a fun little story on Lawbreakers I want to say after we talk about it a bit. Sure.
So our next category was most disappointing, and we had to give it to Lawbreakers. This game, you know, for all the shit we give it, Omar and I actually grew up playing. I don't know what Quake-like shooters. I don't know what else to call them, right?
Yeah. Arena shooters.
Yeah, where there's not like an aiming. There's no recoil really, right? You can just run and jump and just keep shooting, right? We used to play those games after school for hours with our friends. So we do enjoy this genre. So we were looking forward to it when it was first announced. We did kind of lose hype when we actually got to play the game. We played the alpha, right?
Yep.
And of course they always say, well, it's going to change a lot after alpha. But look, I've been playing games for over 20 years now, right? And let me tell you something. Almost nothing changes after alpha, guys. Sorry. Like it gets more optimized, right? But the gameplay rarely changes much from alpha to release.
The design rarely changes that much.
Exactly.
So you play the same game, just more optimized and maybe a little more maps and maybe one more weapon or something. That's all that ever changes. I hate hearing that. People always say, oh, but it's alpha, guys. No, I played Dauntless, right? And I think if you play Dauntless, spoilers, guys, when Dauntless comes out, it's going to be the same exact thing you see right now in alpha with more weapons and more maps. That's it. The game isn't going to be radically different. It'll be more polished, but that's what it's going to be. I think Dauntless has much more potential than Lawbreakers did. From the moment I played Lawbreakers, I knew this was nothing special and it wasn't gonna do well.
Yep. So it's got very low player base on Steam, but from all the
usually less than 20 players, yeah.
And all the public stuff we're seeing is they're not giving up on it. You know, Boss Key Studios is still working on updates. They're still going full steam. They're still asking for the full retail price. But all right, you uncovered some stuff that maybe isn't public yet.
It's a bit fun because if you actually look at I read the Nexon's earnings report actually while on the bathroom before the podcast. So just a fun fact, guys. I read earnings reports and Q&A sessions with analysts while I'm on the can. So most people play mobile games on there. I'm reading Q&A sessions with investors. So somebody actually asked Nexon to talk about Lawbreakers, right? And they asked him, do you have an impairment loss or any other extraordinary expenses recorded as other expenses in the quarter? Which basically means, like, what are your other expenses this quarter? And they answered that this quarter, the majority of our other expenses were our impairment losses on Lawbreakers. And they basically said we will not accrue any more impairment losses on Lawbreakers, which basically means Nexon wrote off the entire value of Lawbreakers from the balance sheet. So Nexon can literally not lose any more money on Lawbreakers. It's already worth zero. You read their balance sheet, on the Lawbreakers line, there's a big fat goose egg. It's worth nothing. Nexon admitted that Lawbreakers is basically a complete disaster. I mean, it might be worth something later, but right now, they've concluded after looking at the performance of the game that the game is worth a solid zero. They wrote down $32 million in the quarter for other expenses, and they said the majority of those other expenses this quarter was the write-down value of Lawbreakers. So at least $60 million of that money on the balance sheet was assigned to Lawbreakers being valuable, but now it's worth zero. And what's more interesting, actually, in the Q&A session was the Nexon's chief financial officer actually had the audacity to say, oh, the reason that this game didn't do well is because PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds came out right around the same time, making the market environment very tough for first-person shooters in general and for Lawbreakers.
That is
I just find it so bizarre. How on God's green earth are you going to blame PUBG's success for Lawbreakers' failure? They're not even the same kind of game at all.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is out here is comparing it to Overwatch, right here.
Yeah,
but PUBG, like, where do they get? Like, it just feels like they're so out of touch with the chief financial officer is not like playing games every day.
A gamer, yeah.
I don't blame him, by the way. He's obviously busy. He's running a big company, right? But the thing is, he just saw PUBG in the headlines, right? Like, best-selling game, PUBG. Oh, that's why we didn't make it, because PUBG came. Like, he could, at least get the subgenre right. It was Overwatch is the reason you failed, all right? Not PUBG.
Yeah, I'm confident in these situations when these companies don't meet their numbers, because I've actually been reading the Q&A sessions with investors for a lot of big companies, right? For gaming companies, because I'm interested in gaming companies, and Perfect World and NetEase and all these Chinese companies. It's actually pretty hilarious because when a Chinese company misses their earnings, like they don't get the players they expected to get for a new game, they always say, "Oh, we missed our player base numbers because of anti-cheating efforts. We banned a lot of cheaters this quarter. That's the reason we didn't make as much money as we thought we would." And it's so bizarre because it's the same excuse every year. Every time a Chinese company misses their numbers and their game doesn't do as well as people thought, oh, they just banned cheaters this quarter. Yeah, of course, that's the reason. But that's the same excuse every time. And it's such nonsense. And I'm confident that somebody at Nexon is like, okay, we need an excuse for why Lawbreakers failed. PUBG. There you go. We found one. Here's a better excuse. The game just wasn't that good. That's the reason.
Yeah. And speaking of PUBG, so Nexon is obviously a Korean company, even though for some reason they're headquartered in Japan or listed in Japan. But PUBG is also a Korean company. It's by Bluehole, and we got some cool pictures. They actually moved into a new headquarters recently because they're all that success. They hired lots of people. They've over 100 people working on the game now. And I got some screenshots here. These are some nice, beautiful screenshots we're gonna get here. All right, here we go.
Check out the PUBG Seoul headquarters.
It is really nice. It is really nice. You guys will see as I continue on here.
It's no MMOs.com headquarters though, all right?
What do you guys think of this whole open office stuff? Like, look how close these people are sitting together. I kind of feel like I'd be nervous working in a place like this. But maybe it keeps everyone honest, like you can't be the only guy on Facebook, or you're too embarrassed to play Facebook games at work because the guy to the right of you can just be like, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm working here," So here's another. MMOs.
I think the office looks badass.
Oh yeah, it gets better. Like, look, they have a cereal bar or like some cookies or whatever this is. They got some beer, a lot of drinks, snacks, nice tables, nice booths so you can eat at. More offices.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough how impressed I was with how quickly PUBG went from conception to actual product. Like literally a few months. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I love this screenshot actually. This guy, he's like the manager, right? He's wheeling around on a Segway here, or one of those hoverboards. Why is he? Why? If I ever run an office, rule number 1: all these stupid hoverboards are banned. All right, that's rule number 1.
Top of the list.
All right, nobody looks cool in one of those. I hate to break it to you guys. Here you go. More.
It looks pretty badass.
Yeah.
So when is MMOs.com moving to a headquarters like this? All right.
Well, we just need 10,000 more people to subscribe. All right.
All right, 10,000. Come on, subscriptions. Go. Boom, boom, boom.
That's only 1,000 each. No, 100 each, right? I'm bad at math.
Math is hard.
But yeah, good offices.
But yeah, those are. I think that's the last one for our last category, right? For our games of the year.
Let me check. No, we have another category, and this is the first time. This is the first time we did this category. Let me scroll down again here. We did Mobile Game of the Year. And I chose this year to do this because mobile gaming is still kind of new, and a lot of the early stuff, right, was just garbage. It was just like ported browser games, right? Like these strategy browser games that were already on PC, and they just ported them over. It was that and arcade games, like those Infinite Runners. But this year, we actually got some real games that weren't pay to win. And I gave it to Arena of Valor. This game is basically mobile League of Legends. We played it a few times. We did a stream for it. So do you agree with this choice, or what are your thoughts on Arena of Valor?
I don't think there's really any other option. I mean, look, personally, games like Fate Grand Order and other gacha games like Brave Exvius and stuff, they're kind of cool, right? But like, it just seems like there's really no innovation in that department. I mean, I think anyone that plays FGO will kind of agree that, if you played Brave Exvius, FGO, or any of the other gacha games, they're basically all very similar. I mean, Fate Grand Order is a very successful game. It's got millions of people playing it. It's one of the most profitable games out there, too. But it's the same stuff we've seen countless times. Where Fate Grand Order really shines is its amazing production value. Like, the animations are great, the art style is great, but the core game is not really anything different. And, Arena of Valor is a non-auto-playing, real MOBA experience on mobile. And we've had Vainglory and a few other games, but this game is unbelievably polished. And from what I've played so far, I'm really enjoying it. Like, it's one of the few mobile games I've actually had fun playing on my own. And I don't like mobile games for the most part because they basically autoplay nonsense, pay to win nonsense. This game is actually there's no autoplay, and the game is not pay to win. So those two things alone kind of raise the bar a lot for Arena of Valor in my eyes.
Yeah, I was actually surprised how legit it gets and how quickly. Like, for example, when you first start playing, I can't tell if you're playing against bots or like 8-year-olds who never played games before, right? So it seems like you just go 20-0. And they got my confidence up, right? I got cocky. I would just pick the DPS character, go all DPS items, right, and just win every game. But obviously, eventually, you play ranked. It figures out where you are, and then you start playing against people your level, and you can't just go all DPS right anymore. Yeah, because you get one-shotted. So it actually takes skill once it calibrates you properly. This game takes you got to actually think. You can't just rush in. Every movement counts, just like in League. So I was surprised at how legit it got after the first, I'd say, 2 hours. So 2 hours, you're kind of, if you have any game sense, you're just romping. But after that, it gets legit.
And the game is Arena of Valor is already the most successful game in the world. About 100 million daily active users. It has about twice the player base of League of Legends and makes more than twice as much money as League of Legends. This game is already unbelievably big because of its success in China, where it's known as Honor of Kings. And it just soft launched in America basically earlier last month, sometime in December. And when full launch happens later this year, look, I don't know how successful that this game isn't really big right now because it's only soft launched and there's really nobody really streaming it just now. But I'm willing to bet that this game is going to create hundreds of streamer careers out there. People that start streaming Arena of Valor now and streaming until the game launches, a lot of people make careers out of this. Think how many people basically got their Twitch career start with PUBG. Hundreds probably got their career start with PUBG. We have the same thing, I think, for Arena of Valor. I think this game will do really well. I could be completely wrong. It could be a completely flop in the West. But because of how successful it was in China, they got my interest to try it, right? And after playing it, I think the game will do well. I think this is going to be the game that's going to do really well. I mean, we've seen big market. People always say marketing can make a game, right? I've heard this a lot. Like, why small indie companies failed? They didn't market the game right, obviously, right? Look at a game like Lineage 2 Revolution. Vastly successful in Asia, but look how much money they spent advertising the game in America. I was following it because it was when that game launched in America, every single big streamer was playing it. Literally every single one. They were paid tens of thousands of dollars to basically shill this game. Unfortunately, MMOs.com was not paid to stream this game. I wish we were, but we weren't. But that game, it jumped on the top most downloaded list on the App Store. It was one of the highest grossing games for basically that week where they advertised it. The moment the advertising money dried up, people stopped playing it. You go to the Twitch page for Lineage 2 Revolution, no one's playing it. No one gives a shit about Lineage 2 Revolution. The game sucks. Okay, it's a bad game. I played it, and I played it for hours and hours. I'm trying to see what the allure here was. It was an MMORPG that played itself. It didn't even run very well. It was nothing special about that game, and almost everyone I knew that played it already quit. And they only played it because they saw their favorite streamers playing it. So no amount of, I am confident they spent millions, many millions, easily over $10 million marketing that game in America, and people already quit. So it's not marketing that will make the game. I mean, you have to have a good game to market as well. Marketing helps, but you need a good product to begin with.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's an old saying with cameras, the best camera is the one you have with you, and I think it's going to apply more than people think to gaming in the future. So this game, Arena of Valor, a lot of people say it's like a clone of League of Legends or whatever. But if you're a young kid at school or whatever, right? Like the thing you have with you all the time is your phone. So I think that's gonna make up the difference a lot between your preferred medium like a keyboard and mouse to just a phone because you have it with you. So I do think it will do well.
Actually, Chaos at only 10 million. That's actually a good question. I'm actually gonna look at the Netmarble is a company that makes Lineage Revolution. They're publicly traded, so I'm gonna look at their earnings report, see what their marketing budget was for that quarter that it launched in America. And obviously, we won't get a full picture because it'll be the marketing budget for all their games. But we can see, there'll be a big spike with the American launch, and we can maybe see how many millions they spent on marketing the game. Because I literally saw that game everywhere, whether it was YouTube, Pornhub, Facebook, Twitter. It was literally everywhere. You could not avoid the Lineage 2 ads. They were just in your face everywhere. And it was so cringe watching all the big streamers like, yeah, playing some Lineage 2 Revolution. Fuck yeah, this game is so fun. Like, I don't know.
I want to make another difference between Lineage 2 Revolution and Arena of Valor. Omar, so when we streamed this, I was playing on my phone, and you were playing on your computer, right? And I remember you saying a few times that it actually feels better on the phone than the computer.
Yes.
Okay, that's very important because I do know a few people who are playing Lineage 2 Revolution seriously. But every single one of them, you know what they're doing? After they try it on their phone, they realize the best way to play this game is actually on the computer. So what they will do is they will launch like 6 different emulated screens, right? They will launch 6 versions of the game, and they'll all play each other. And, they'll just use the mouse to click between windows and manage their 6 auto-playing characters. So this mobile game doesn't even work on mobile, Lineage 2 Revolution at least. It drains your battery, by the way. That thing got my phone so hot. But with Arena of Valor, it's a mobile game that actually plays well on mobile. And I think that would make all the difference. It actually... If I were to play Lineage 2 Revolution seriously, the first thing I would do is get the emulator and just play an emulator. Whereas you wouldn't do that with this game. So that's a big difference for me.
Now, someone want to ask, can this game maybe kill League? I mean, I don't know. I think I mentioned last podcast that I thought maybe Tencent rather, made this game as a kind of a test bed before they made League of Legends Mobile. Because, why not use the name League of Legends Mobile, right? But no, they just made it. A lot of the characters are very similar to League. There's actually... Some of the abilities are literally clones from League of Legends. Like the character you're seeing on the screen right now has the Twisted Fates abilities. He's got when it's a gold card, when the gold icon over his head, it's a stun. When the red one's over his head, it's AoE damage. When the blue one, he gets mana. So very clearly inspired by League. I think it has potential to surpass, at least maybe come close to League of Legends in the West. It's already surpassed League of Legends in the world and in China, but we'll see how it does in America because nothing is quite past League in the West just yet. But I think if any game can do it, I think this game is going to be the one. And I don't think it's going to just kill League at all because League has a very core audience on PC as well. I don't think League is dying anytime soon, but I think this game has potential to pass it.
I think this game will attract the next generation of gamers. So there are a lot of people today, a lot of kids, like high school kids, that all have iPhones, right? But they don't have, NVIDIA 960 GTX cards, right? And these guys, instead of begging their parents for a $1,000 computer, they're just going to play games on their phones. And what also that means is everyone who's playing League is not going to stop playing League and start playing this because they're going to keep playing League until they get tired of games when they're like 40 or whatever. But the new people are going to be going into mobile a lot more. That's my guess.
And I think a lot of the decline in maybe PC MMOs in the West to a degree is the quality of games have kind of duke. We really haven't had any big innovative title here either. So I mean, people talk about decline of MMOs and they're blaming mobile. I don't think it's fair to blame mobile. I mean, it's a different platform. People are, having extra choice is good, I think. I mean, having the option to play Arena of Valor isn't really hurting my league. I can still play League of Legends. Just this is an extra option I can play. So I think it's good overall.
Yep. And I do think the constraint of mobile is actually good for innovation. A lot of big titles, franchises we know of today came about, decades ago, when you had to get your game to fit on a 700 megabyte disk, right? And so what you had to do, the sacrifices you had to make, the smart choices you had to make, were important. Where today, I feel like so many people making games for PC, they're under no constraints. These file sizes are like 50 gigabytes, 100 gigabytes, right? And then they ship you like broken games and they say we're gonna fix it later because they know they can just patch it. So it gives way to there's a lot of leeway with PC development today. You can release a buggy game and just patch it over years, fix it with 10 gigabyte patches every week. So there's less there's just too much room for slack there. I want to get back to the weekly rate real quick and take a look at 2017. So I embedded this chart. I always find this fascinating. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Let's take a look here. So this is the 2017 video game industry at a macro level here. So this total size of the market is 116 billion in revenue, and that's a 10% growth from 2016. So we're still in a healthy place. This is a really 10% growth is pretty good. The only segment that shrank was PC browser game, and I don't think anyone here is going to shed a tear for PC browser games.
No, I absolutely hate those PC browser Chinese pay-to-win games, whether it's the ones that autoplay themselves are MMORPGs or the strategy games like Ebony, Vikings, which actually is advertising. You can see the Vikings ad if you go to MMOs.com. Like, I fucking hate that game, and I'll tell you straight up, right? The game fucking blows. It's a pay-to-win nonsensical game, but they make money for some reason, so we're running the ad.
Yep. PC gaming grew, but it's surprising to me how slowly it grew. It grew 1.4%. And PC gaming is still, on a global basis, smaller than console gaming, which I didn't think was true. I knew it was true in America, but I didn't think that was a global constant.
That's pretty incredible. Console games are still huge, and console games are not only bigger, they're growing faster.
Yep.
But I think mobile is the crazy bit on this chart. That giant size and the year-over-year growth is insane. Yeah,
43% of all gaming revenue is mobile, and the growth from last year was 23%. That's huge. So we'll
actually, now that you mentioned PC browser games, I have to mention there was a comment on MMOs.com, kind of fits into our discussion last week about people are ruining their lives in some of these gacha games, or just mobile gaming, or it applies to PC gaming as well. See if I can link that to you.
Oh yeah, this is for those of you who don't remember, Omar and I, for the past few weeks, have been arguing about whether a lot of mobile games are gambling or not, like the loot box mechanics or the pay-to-win mechanics. And there's a lot of funny comments regarding this situation.
See if you can find it. All right, let's see. Let me just link you the page and just Control F marriage to find it.
All right.
So again, this game, Viking War of Clans, is actually advertised on MMOs.com. You can see the ad in the left and right of the site, and if you sign up, we get paid like if you spend like $10 in the game, we get $5. So there's 50% revenue share. So that's why the ads are there. And I think the game sucks, but if people want to pay up, if people want to spend money in that game, we'll take that sweet 50% revenue share.
Okay, here we go. This is the comment. I found it.
Yep.
Then I lost. Okay, here we go. Never once played this game, but what I do know is I have a visceral hatred of it. It caused a collapse in my marriage because of its addictive nature. Wife stole thousands of dollars to feed the addiction to this game and become a whole new person, stuck in a fantasy world perpetrated by her status in this garbage. It is no different than cocaine. Trust me, I witnessed it firsthand. I thought that was really powerful. The whole ruining marriage thing is nothing new. A lot of MMOs especially, they can steal your time, like 12 hours a day. They can ruin your relationships, right? But the new toxic chemical in mobile gaming is not only can they steal your time, but they can steal all your money. There's no end to how much money you can spend in a game like this. You can spend thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. We even did a story in 2017 of a guy spending over $1 million in Clash Royale. Clash of Clans, I'm sorry. So that's insane.
It's nuts.
That's insane.
I know most of our discussion last week kind of centered around mobile gambling gacha games, right? So I'm curious, what do you think? This game is actually one. It's not mobile. It's a PC game. There might be a mobile version. I'm not sure. There
is, because I see a link. I see an Android and iOS link here.
But this game, along with Clash of Clans, Game of War, they don't have any gambling mechanics as far as I know. These are games that are mega pay to win, but there are no gambling mechanics per se at all. So it kind of deviates away from our discussion last week. So what particular mechanic about this game do you find particularly offensive. I mean, I look at it and I see this garbage pay-to-win game, right? It's a game I'm never going to play, and I would never spend a penny on this game. And I encourage everybody watching not to spend any money on this game, right? Because I think the game sucks. And it's pay-to-win. It's not fair. It's a bad game, honestly, on top of that, too. But where is the mechanic in here that you find particularly offensive? We can both agree that people ruining their lives spending money is not a good thing, right? But like, what mechanic in this game do you like? Because I can understand the gambling mechanic kind of preys on your mind. So what about Vikings is there that's particularly bad?
Okay, my issue with all this whole genre, right? And the way I liken it to gambling is the psychology of it. It's kind of like, imagine an auction, like eBay, right? But imagine an auction where everyone who bids loses their money. So if you bid $5, then someone outbids you at $10, you still have to pay your $5. It's gone, right? So the psychology of an arms race, where sunk costs are heavily in your mind, that to me is like a form of gambling. And
it's not gambling.
The actual word gambling, I'm less interested in than the psychological place it puts you. So, for example, imagine this game. Like, I spend a couple days building up. Let me just mute this tab here. So imagine I spend a couple days building up my army for this sexy Viking girl, right? She's helping me out here. So obviously, all these games do the same shit. You're immune for the first week, right? So you invest time and your energy into your emotions into your little town here, right? And on the 7th day, your PvP shield goes away, and then you get raided, right? And you start losing progress. And for the percent who still get it, for the percent who like this, I'd say 90% get bored before the PvP shield goes away, right? Because these games are pretty boring. But for those who get into it, that loss is they feel it, and they know they can train soldiers, but it takes like 18 hours to train your soldiers, right? Or you can push one button, right? And that's it. And then you can ward off the attack. So you push the button, right? You paid the $20, you're safe. But now the guy who attacked you, right? He spent $20 worth of soldiers to attack you, and he lost that. But here's the thing: if he takes your town, he'll get the resources back. So all he's got to do is spend another $20 to get $40 of resources. So now he does it. He spends some money. He sends another soldier against you. So this kind of build up where you got to pay more just to keep what you already have. I think it really puts people in a mental place where, at that moment, in that 5 minutes or that 10 minutes, they're not. They'll spend everything they have. The whole bank account means nothing. The child's college account means nothing. It'll all go.
That's a bit extreme because most people who play these games don't spend any money, and I agree with you. People spending their college money, their rent money on this game is bad. Like that's not a desired outcome for anyone. But there is no gambling mechanic, because I know the biggest problem with Star Wars Battlefront, with a lot of the MMOs people have problems with, is the gacha mechanics, where the loot boxes and has always been the kind of center for like.
This is worse. This is way worse than loot boxes, I think. This is worse than loot boxes.
But there's no gambling here.
I mean, if you, I described it best as I could. I think it puts you in the same state mentally as gambling does. Okay. So what you want to call it, gambling or not, is not what I'm interested in. It's like, imagine like boxing breaks your nose, but then like kung fu breaks your nose. Like, it doesn't matter. Your nose is broken either way. Right? That's the thing I'm focusing on, right?
But then can you just argue that if something is just like, I guess, games are meant to be addictive. Like, I think any game developer wants to make their game like, so you can't get off of it.
But there's a difference when you put the money element. So you can lose infinite money in these games when you're in that state. It's like you're in a hypnotic state caused by the game mechanics, okay? Where you can just pour millions.
But the hypnotic state, you say that as if that's inherently bad in itself. Isn't all marketing putting you in this hypnotic state? Literally every TV ad you've ever seen in your life, every time you see a billboard, they're trying to put you in a hypnotic state to buy their product. Yeah, but sometimes their product could be a $10 million private jet or something.
No, but you're right. There's a spectrum. So just like there's a spectrum of drugs like coffee, nicotine, cocaine, whatever, and then heroin, right? It's a spectrum. And I feel like these kind of games, these are the heroin. These are like the pure, unadulterated shot to the vein of pure, like $10,000 down the window, 5 minutes, boom, gone. Whereas if someone markets, Call of Duty to you really well, you spend $50, big deal. And that's it. And then next year you spend another $50, big deal.
And actually, the highest, the mobile game that makes the most money per average paying user is actually a game like this. It's actually called Game of War. You've probably seen their ads everywhere. They used to have what's her name? Big titty blonde girl. Is that her name?
Big titty. Oh my god.
Fuck. They downgraded Mariah Carey. Who their old girl was way hotter.
Kate Upton.
They had Kate Upton. Kate Upton was their big titty girl, and those ads used to be everywhere. That game makes on average $550 per paying member. And if you actually compare it to that list of mobile games, it's pretty nuts. Again, how much money this game makes in relation to everything else, and it's because it's this. It's a game very similar to Vikings that you're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, you think I think that's a huge amount of money, $500. Yeah, that's more than you can spend.
You know, that's average. Maybe people spend more than that. So again, I don't know, how do you fix this problem besides outright, like, what is the solution to this of people spending too much money? Because, you know, people used to say just get rid of the loot boxes, right, and that fixes the problem. But like, it doesn't fix the problem in a game like this, where the loot boxes aren't the reason people spend money.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. Maybe I can think about it a little more. I don't want to just ban it though, because I feel like, you know, you can't just ban bad things. Like, you ban alcohol, you get you get mafia and stuff. You know, you get gangs. You ban gambling, it goes underground. So I don't want to ban it, but I do think it should be something we're aware of, and don't let your friends and family fall for this shit.
Finally, you need to get rid of the bottomless money hole, right? But like, what is it about that mechanic, that design mechanic, that's inherently like evil or should be illegal? Like, you know, in Grand Theft Auto, can't you spend infinite money just buying all the cat? Yeah, you run out of stuff to buy eventually. Actually, but you just keep buying.
That's a really good. The bottomless money hole is a good point. You got to get rid of that. And there are companies in the past that used to do this. Like Gripolis, a lot of the Germans were actually ahead of the ball with these strategy games. A lot of the early strategy browser games were German games. And Gripolis, Travian, and stuff like that were big ones. And when I first played Gripolis, when it first launched, I can't say if this is still the case or not, but the way it worked is if you pay monthly, right, you get 3 buffs. It's like a percentage increase to your unit production, a percentage increase to your resource gathering, and like an extra like build slot, right? But you couldn't pay and just instantly get stuff. Like, you couldn't just pay $5,000 and get like 10,000 troops. There was no mechanism to insta pay for stuff. If that makes sense. You could only buy.
Why is that mechanic inherently bad? Like,
because
why shouldn't people be allowed to blow their money? Like, again, it just seems weird to protect people from their own stupidity. Is what kind of, you know, essentially this entire conversation kind of devolves to, how much should we protect people from their own stupidity? And when gambling is involved, because we understand the psychology of gambling and casinos, that it can create a chemical dependence, some actual dependence on gambling, and it's a very well understood thing. Well, and loot boxes kind of can be connected to that, so there is a, you know, maybe argument for regulation can be made. Yeah. But in a game like this game, this Vikings game, why should we even try protecting people from their stupidity? Like, look, this is going to happen. People are going to ruin their lives playing video games, period. Whether they spend $5,000 on this piece of shit game, or they buy, maybe they spend $3,000 on Xbox and all the games they want to play for it. You know, it happens everywhere.
You're right. And at the end of the day, it's about minimizing it with the least cost. So, for example, we require airbags in cars and seatbelts, right? And if you're on a second floor of a mall, I'm pretty sure the mall is required to have those rails, right? The handrails, so people don't just walk off and fall to the first floor and die. So, I mean, if we can add things, I don't know what the translation of that would be to mobile games, but just some kind of simple rail, you know, I think would go a long way. And in a lot of countries that are more advanced than we are in mobile gaming, Korea and China, for example, the government is a lot more hands-on. They basically say, if you're under 18, for example, you know, after a certain number of hours a day, that's it, you're cut off, because they realize how addictive this stuff is. So I don't know if we're gonna go that far, or where it's gonna meet, but I do think there's definitely gonna be some more regulation here.
Okay, but again, people are saying it's like predatory advertising, but like,
it's definitely
predatory. Hold on, if advertising like colorful Cheerios with like cartoon characters and sugar to kids is allowed, and not like,
well, that's a what about thing. I mean, that's bad too, but we're talking about this, you know.
But it just seems like this seems such a weird place to draw. Look, I think we can all agree that this is not a desired. This is not a desired outcome. Marriage is falling apart due to people being retarded and losing their money. Nobody wants that, right? Like, nobody is cheering for this guy to lose his marriage. But it just seems like, well, you can't. I don't think any amount of, you know, you can never stop stupid people from being absolutely stupid.
I just want to say this line out loud. Okay, so I'm building this lumber mill, right? And this sexy, my sexy Viking warrior is telling me, "Oh, mighty one, don't forget how valuable your time is. You can speed up any construction if it ends in less than 5 minutes." So she's gearing me to let me know that I can, for free, if it's under 5 minutes, I can speed up instantly. Now, obviously, in about an hour, when things take longer than 5 minutes, it's gonna say, "Oh, mighty one, don't you want to make me happy? Just pay like $5. You can really speed this up, baby." All right.
Ultimately, here's what I'm trying to say. Like, let's say you built the walls around this, right? Let's say you made these games very difficult for retards to lose their money, right? But don't you think those people would lose their money elsewhere? Like, you know those carnival games where you throw the little rings on the bottle caps? Like, they're all scams, right? There was a news article like a couple of years ago where this guy basically lost like $5,000 trying to win like an Xbox at a carnival game. Like, these are the people that are losing their money here. They're gonna lose it somewhere else, unless you literally wall them off from everything and take away all their money and their spending power. Like, they're gonna lose their money. Like, dumb people, a fool and their money are soon part.
But if you recall, that 5,000, the guy who lost 5,000 on the crane game, that made national news. Whereas
the crane was it was the bottle cap game, wasn't it?
And it probably took a long time to lose that 5,000, right? And it made national news. I think a guy losing $5,000 in one of these games, it's so part and parcel. Like no one even raises an eyebrow anymore. Right, like $5,000 in one of these mobile games is like it's just a regular Tuesday, you know. It's like it's not a story.
But again, you can't just say it's a regular Tuesday because very few people spend that kind of money. I mean, we kind of always kind of like, oh my god, all the whales in mobile games, right? Like, we don't have a data like how many people, like what percent of players spend more than $1,000 on mobile games. You think? I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be less than 0.01%, based on all the because first of all, only 2% of people convert to paying members, and in America, it's the people that do convert to paying members spend $87 on average. 87. So 2% is $87, and that's spending 87. That's per year. So now when you get to $1,000, we're talking tiny fractions and fractions of a percent. So even in the mobile gaming universe, you can't blow this blow this number up too much. I mean, it can't be that large.
I agree, it's not the biggest problem in the world, but in the gaming world, I think it's the biggest problem in the gaming world. That's why I'm talking about it. And those of you watching who like what you see, be sure to hit up that link and click play now for a chance to be the Viking warrior lord. All right,
and actually, again, to full disclosure, again, this particular game I think is a piece of shit, and I don't recommend anyone play it, right? But like, if we include on our games directory because it's an online strategy. We have a category for web strategy games, right? We have a category for this shit, so we try to put every game in that shitty category.
Also, they pay us, so sign up.
They pay us. We get 50% revenue share because, like, basically by having that page up, if you click the play now button, we get 50% of the money you spend in that game. So like, we had the page up already, and like, we might as well put a referral link in there because if people sign up, we get paid 50%. I think we've had one person sign up for not this game, but the same game. This company makes multiple other games, and they're all the same. They have basically a Sparta version where you play as these like Spartan soldiers. It's the same exact game basically, the same nonsensical gameplay. We've had one person sign up, and he spent like about $17,000 on the game. So we had one person click on that link and sign up and spend 17 grand. So we got about $8,500 from his spending, which again is mind blowing that anybody would do that.
Yo,
like, it's
insane. It is insane. I'm actually surprised how often I'm agreeing with what you're saying in chat compared to the pregame where we were kind of on different sides of the PUBG lobby issue.
So again, we've made a referral commission off this game, and I don't recommend this game, but it's on the site already. We might as well get that 50% referral. People are going to blow money on this game regardless. We might as well get our 50% cut.
I actually think you're a little harsher on the game itself than I am because you keep saying people who play it are retarded. It's a bad game, yada yada. Look,
it is a bad game.
If you want to play this game, that's fine. The issue I have with it is the bottomless aspect. So if they could control that part, right? There's literally no difference between playing this and like any other game in my mind. If you enjoy it, go ahead. It's just that it's like this. There will be moments in our lives, right, when we are so angry, right, like something happened and we have that gun in our hand and like we're thinking about shooting that guy who pissed us off, right? But in that moment, if some of us will pull the trigger and some of us won't, hopefully none of us do. But in that moment of uncontrolled, loss of control, you can't just say the guy was retard after the fact. It wasn't a normal circumstance. He was in a certain headspace, right? And this game,
but these games are that way though.
It is. These games are designed to put you in a certain headspace that under a moment of pressure, your guild is being attacked by like 20 guys, right? And you could lose a year's worth of progress, or you could just spend $1,000, right? The decision you make at that point, I don't think is you're not in the same moment of control as you are, every day.
I don't know. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre world we live in with some of these games. Somebody actually mentioned in our chat, like he plays a browser game called Blade of Queens, and he spent about $500 on the game today, and he would spend more if he had more money. And that's actually look. I actually first looked for Blade of Queens because I thought it was hilarious. It's another Chinese auto-playing pay-to-win game, right? But like they really tug on your base instincts in this game. They basically show you the big booby girls right away, and basically make you want to spend money. So if you look at that video, like just look right at the beginning. Like look at the advertisement right at the beginning of that video, like the way the game is presented. It is insane, actually.
Also, I should just say one more thing. It's not, and you always accuse me of this. People spending their money, right? And I'm making fun of them. Look, if you spend $1 million on this game during this phase, like you're just kind of your economy building, and you spend $1 million, dude, that's totally fine. Like that's your decision, right? That's your money. My point is though, the trouble people I'm talking about don't spend it during this time when they're just like building their base. They do it in those pressure moments that I'm talking about, and in those moments you're not in control. So if you're in control, you're just playing by yourself, you're building your little base, you want to attack the NPC town, and you spend $1,000, God bless you. Go ahead. But the thing is, if they put you in a headspace where you feel pressured, you feel like you're not in control, and you got to do it to save your town or whatever, that's the issue. That psychology.
All right, I want you to go to 220 and pause it for a moment. All right.
All right.
This game is really something else. And just read the dialogue out loud.
Okay. All right. Let me just pause as soon as we get there. Wow. What is going on? Okay.
Just read it. Read that.
All right. Damned. Still dare to peer on the goddess bathing. But to be honest, the goddess does have a good body shape.
Oh god, this game is hilarious. It's just so weird, and like the grammar is so bad too, and it's just like they're just obviously clearly sex sells because again somebody never chance to spend $500 on this game. God bless. Look, it's ultimately there is personal responsibility. I don't think if you spend $500 on a game and you enjoy it, like, God bless you. It's your money. You do what you want.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't really care how you spend your money. You know, everyone's gonna spend their money. Some people take $500, they go to the bar and they blow it, like at a casino bar.
Yeah.
And they buy $10 drinks at a nightclub. Like you could blow $500 at a nightclub too. Like, I don't think one way of spending your money is any better than the other.
Oh, Eugens, I appreciate that support. What I'm saying, I'm not even giving an opinion. I'm giving facts. I'm always right. Whew. I like to hear that.
I want to show you one more amazing thing about this game. This game is really, I mean, the core premise of the game is very similar to other Chinese browser MMORPGs. It auto plays itself. It's got this turn-based combat. It's, I'm not a fan though. It's just, there are better games like this, by the way. There's a game called Naruto Online. It's made by Tencent. I mean, it's still auto playing Chinese pay to win, but it's just better production value. I want to show you some quality in this game here if I can find it. Go to I don't know if we can show this on stream. I think we can.
I love this art in this game. It's just so blatant.
Go to 844 on the video. 844.
844.
And look at this charge. Look at the chart. Recharge to receive extra worthy remuneration.
Ooh, we go back.
I'm not sure if we can actually see the nipple there, but it's in the game.
The nipple? You can see like the side of the second nipple. The left.
And play for a second and look at the next picture. You just see the girl with her tits moving like on their own, like it's just really bizarre.
Oh, you're right. That is weird.
Like, why are they moving like that?
That's the only thing moving. It's like a picture.
Yeah, it's like they animated one aspect of the thing, and I guess they're focusing their budget on where they get the most return. All right, my favorite part is coming up. Go to 1319.
All right.
This game, this Blade of Queens game has a dating mechanic. You can like you can date the goddesses in the game, and as you tier up with the goddesses, they actually get less and less clothes.
Wow.
So you gotta seduce the goddesses. Awaken goddess bonuses.
So you said 1319?
Yep, and hit play from over there.
Okay, so this is a black and white goddess. She hasn't discovered color yet.
Yeah, it's the move physics are just great. And again, there's an option to increase your affinity with the goddess. Like that's how you improve your status with them to get more pictures in the game. It just when you increase affinity, you'll see how the actual mechanic works. It's amazing.
I'm looking forward.
This is how you date girls in real life, by the way. This game teaches you what it takes to seduce a girl.
It didn't even start yet, but I already know what's gonna happen now.
This is there you go. This is you play rock paper scissors to to get max intimacy with the goddesses.
This is actually how I seduce Donut.
And there's a big unseal option at the end, and you can basically get more naked pictures of the girls, like more nude, more like sexual.
Good play. You threw the rock. That was an alpha move, right? That was a Chad move right there.
I just pulled a Chad move, right? Not that virgin walk, right? We got the Chad
not
walk.
the virgin paper, right? You gotta go rock.
Not the virgin. Bitches love them rocks.
Shit! You're going far. She's like undressed now.
I know. So this game is, and it's really weird. Like, and that's such a weird part of the game that it's even in there. It just feels like they kind of added the booby stuff in there for like no reason, but like just obviously to, I don't know. I'm sure the game will pull on your like base instincts later on, and be like, oh, my lord, please give it, spend more money and then you'll get better views and stuff. I don't know. It's just weird.
I don't get why this one is not colored in. Did they like forget to color this one character in?
Maybe you have to like unlock her or something. I don't know. Maybe I don't have it unlocked or some nonsense. This is the state of gaming's future. Yeah, I mean, it's when somebody can spend $500 on a game like this, that's essentially also in a way $500 not going towards other games. You're voting with your dollar. So when these games make a lot of money, you're gonna get more games like this. Fortunately for us, the browser game market actually shrunk in 2017 based on the chart we showed earlier. So there's a 5% decrease in browser games. So that's good because hopefully games like this make less money. The dialogue is just horrendous too. It just makes no kind of sense.
I have a feeling these kind of games have a very bright future in mobile. So I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon.
Also, I'll take last thing on this. Go to 1620 in that video and just pause.
1620.
1628, and just tell me what map you think of when you see this.
Oh my god.
Where do you think Blade of Queens drew inspiration for their world map?
It's so shameless.
Where could it be?
It's so shameless.
It's literally unbelievable. They get away with it because there's one of their Chinese companies. It doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously everyone in the chat should be screaming World of Warcraft to a degree.
Excuse me, it's actually Azeroth.
I mean, even kind of the shapes are a little bit similar as well. The Northridge right at the top there as well. It's real quality.
Good game, good game.
Yeah, that's Blade of Queens. I'm glad you mentioned the chat again. Ultimately, though, again, people spend their money on what they want. So it's as long as people are spending money that they can afford to lose, I think it's no big deal. But that's the key part: afford to blow. And it applies to when they're buying console games, they're buying mobile games, they're buying big titty Blade of Queens games.
I'm gonna play some more Vikings here, guys.
I'm sorry, McKay. I didn't mean to call you out. I just thought the game was hilarious. Take greater than IRL. I mean, we've had people tell us they spent like $5,000+ on League of Angels too, and other games as well. So I mean, these games are making money off some people.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them, so obviously they're doing okay.
What's really amazing is I think if a game like Vikings existed that wasn't pay to win, it could be pretty fun. These kind of games are actually not bad if they weren't pay to win.
I mean, like I said, guys, I really don't think those original German strategy games were pay to win. Yes, you could pay for an advantage, but it was a set advantage. Like, it was a certain percentage increase, but there was no instant build everything. So those games were actually fair.
Yeah, I don't know how fair. I think it was Travian was one of the early.
Yeah, Travian, Gripolis. Yeah, those games were fair. I'm telling you.
I don't know how fair they were. I don't remember. Travian is still around though today. They're still making mad money, mad bucks.
All right. Any interesting news besides Game of the Year stuff?
I mean, CCP's work on MMORPG. Have you heard about that?
I did, but I don't know much about it.
But we don't know anything about it just yet, though. It's literally no information released. All we know is that they're hiring a lead game designer to lead development of a highly ambitious MMORPG. And that's all we got.
I do have one more fun link for you guys. So every year, Steam does this. They release their top 100 best-selling games, but they don't actually give any numbers or rankings. What they do is they put it into like groups. So these were the platinum games on Steam for the year. Let's take a quick look. And these are not in order. Okay, these are just all platinum games, whatever that means. So there's no ranking or dollar amounts here. What surprised me was H1Z1, actually. H1Z1 was one of the best-selling top, what is this, 4, 8, 12 games. One of the top 12 selling games on Steam this year. That was surprising.
I'm not surprised. The game is still mega popular. I mean, averages over last Thursday averaged over 18,000 players. The game is still huge. It had a bit of a lead on PUBG as well. And actually, I have H1Z1 now on Steam because I got it from my Humble Bundle.
Oh.
Yep.
What else is surprising? All right, this is surprising. Grand Theft Auto 5, despite being 4 years old now, 5 years old.
That's amazing. That game is still selling really well.
Yeah, one of the top sellers. Witcher 3, also a couple years old now. Not surprised to see Dota or Counter-Strike here. Those are the old Valve staples. Divinity Original Sin 2. Single player game that got really good reviews. I'm glad to see isometric games still up there. Warframe. That's surprising.
Yeah, it's. I think PUBG is going to be dominating that list for a while.
How do you feel about this one? Elder Scrolls Online is in the gold tier, while Black Desert and Final Fantasy are in the silver tier.
Wow.
So
Game's doing well.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls. I feel like Elder Scrolls Online is like a quiet success now. People don't talk about it too much, but it's doing really well on PC and console.
I think the optional subscription, I think, did a lot of wonders for them. I think a lot of people were turned off from paying monthly to play at the get go. I mean, if you look at the numbers for was it Star Wars: Old Republic? They said when they went they actually got more subscribers when they dropped their required subscription, even though you kind of do need to subscribe to get most of the good stuff. Near and gold.
Yeah, all right, let's go down to silver.
I've seen you playing it, so.
Oh no, yeah. So silver is Final Fantasy 14, Path of Exile,
BDO.
Yep. Cuphead. That was a fun game. Oh, that's a fun one. This is interesting. Conan Exiles, silver. One of the top games.
There was a lot of hype early in the year when that game launched. That was a mean game though. I played a lot with Chaos in the early launch, and I never played after the first month.
That game was so poorly optimized during the initial early access release, and this is like my thing. Like, how can they get away with that? Like, they had these 64-player servers, but they couldn't actually handle more than like 20 players.
Yeah, I think that the official servers are still like 20. Oh, it's unbelievably dumb.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, well, this is a fun list. I have a link to it in our weekly raid, along with some other links. So you guys should definitely check that out.
All right, I think that's it for unless you got anything else.
No, we can talk a little bit about the rest in the post game, guys. Thanks for watching. Good. Hope you have a great year. Stick around for many more podcasts.
All right, later for YouTube, and hang around with us for a bit in the post game Twitch.
All right, peace.
Later for YouTube.